was actually an interesting chatter during the meeting. I mean, first of all, the meeting, still so many technical issues, but besides that, it did end rather abruptly, and Alderman Beal felt that he had one more issue that he had put on the table, and that Kim Fox was actually waiting by Zoom to be part of the discussion. Why was Kim Fox not part of today's presentation?
I don't believe that that's accurate. I had no information that Kim Fox was waiting to come into the room. I would check that. I think there may have been somebody, a representative from her office that may have been there, but I do not believe that so. And let me also just push back a little bit on the premise of your question. As you've seen over the course of time, a motion to adjourn is germane at any point. And Alderman Mitchell made the motion to adjourn, and his colleagues voted to adjourn. So that could have come at the very beginning of the meeting, could have come in the middle. It came where it came, and the members of the body voted to adjourn.
It was rather historic. There's been others who've tried to call special meetings. It's never happened. 47 aldermen did appear today. While they all have different opinions about public safety, it did seem as if they wanted a discussion of where the city is headed and what might be. They want to be more included, is what they're saying.
Yeah, I don't know that that's accurate, that it's never happened before. I've been told that in prior administrations there have been special meetings that have been called. But look, the bottom line is this. These are important issues. I think the statement that was issued by Chairman Talaferro and Chairman Dow was exactly right. Issues of public safety are issues that we are contending with on a daily basis. Obviously, we're very much aware of that, and we're involved in those discussions. And we're not just involved, this administration is leading those discussions. I think there will be a robust debate to be had regarding National Guard. As you saw from the discussion earlier today, I think there's a range of opinions on them, and I certainly have my own about that issue. So the issue really wasn't, should we have the discussion or not? The question was, and the body has decided, that given the way in which this deliberative body has organized itself in particular around committee hearings, that the way in which the body should consider these issues is through the committee process, pure and simple. I think it's unfortunate, as Alderman Taliaferro and Alderman Dow indicated in their statements, that the two of the proponents of or at least maybe three of the proponents of today's special meeting never reached out to even raise the question with them. Look, here's what I know. What we see on a daily basis is the federal government is failing to lead. And really, it's in chaos and shambles on a daily basis on basically every issue, and particularly some of the most pressing of our time, not the least of which is how to respond to this virus that is claiming the lives of way too many Americans. In this time, because of the void that's been created by the federal government, by the executive branch, and by the fact that there isn't bipartisan consensus on basically anything these days in the halls of Congress, the need to get things done and to be responsive to the needs of our residents falls to local government. What we do not need in this time is to mimic the chaos and rancor that we see at the federal government. Our residents want us to come together, to have robust debate, and to solve problems that are top of mind for them. And I agree with that. And my role as mayor is to make sure that we keep moving forward in a way that is responsive to the needs of our residents. Absolutely, we should have a debate about every single issue of the day. And we have been, and we will continue to. But we have to do it in a way that actually builds on consensus and moves towards real solutions. And I think, again, paraphrasing the comments of the chairman, that's exactly what they intend to do. That's exactly what they have been doing. Now, people come to these issues with different perspectives. They're not always going to agree, particularly if they aren't able to muster a majority to move forward on the issues that they care about. But that's democracy. Democracy is messy. That's, I think, the beauty of our system. Everyone can have a seat at the table. But it's got to be done in a way that is actually constructive, and particularly in these times. People are sick and tired of the toxicity, of the rancor, of people staking out positions, but not moving forward to do the people's work. And that's what we must be about in this time.
Several questions that are similar from Kelly Bauer and Dana Kozlov at CBS2. Many aldermen say they feel that they are not included, though, and in those discussions about pertinent city issues. In fact, we're hearing from some of those concerns today. They say you alienate any critics. What is your response?
Well, look, I don't agree with that, obviously. What I am told from staff that has worked in various administrations is that this administration, my administration, has been more open, has reached out to aldermen more often. We do more briefings, and we continue to do that. And we particularly in this time, we're in the middle of a pandemic where we're seeing the concerns of residents around police reform, accountability, racial equity. We are on a regular basis, multiple times a week, our staff is engaged with aldermen and then trying to help them solve the nuts and bolts of challenges in their wards. Now, again, some people certainly have an opinion about whether or not we're advancing their individuals' agendas. I get that. But we try to provide lots of opportunity for aldermen to weigh in on whatever topics of the day. And, can we continue to challenge ourselves to make sure that we're providing other opportunities? Of course, I'm absolutely wanting to do that. Every alderman has my cell phone number. They don't hesitate to reach out. I am engaged with many of them, and some of the ones who said certain things today that are different than what we see in private. But that doesn't matter. It's not about this moment. It's about making sure that we have a process and a structure for open and vigorous debate, and that's what we need to be about.
Is there any kind of update on this weekend and the plans for public safety? As last Friday we had heard a comprehensive plan. Is that plan still in place?
Oh, yeah.
Might we see bridges up 12 hours on and off for the police officers?
The plan, the overall structure is exactly the same. We started executing on that last weekend and through the course of the week. Whether or not we do some additional things like having the bridges up really depends upon what we're seeing and what we're hearing from an intelligence perspective. And I'll defer to the superintendent on any particulars, but there's a meeting later this afternoon to kind of set the course for what the deployments will be for tonight and over the weekend. And we're hoping for a quiet weekend, but we're going to be diligent and ready because that's what the times demand.
From Greg Hines at Cranes. Cranes has reported that at a time when the city's economy could not be more stressed, the city's representative as a business center is doing not so well. World Business Chicago, the city's job recruitment agency, is cutting a quarter of its jobs. Why don't you give them more help, especially since you're opposed to any layoffs?
Well, the news about World Business Chicago is really old news. I think they made that announcement about 3 weeks ago. And obviously in these austere times, everybody's got to look at ways in which they can tighten their belt. I have great confidence in Andrea Zopp. We've spent a lot of time over this course of this summer talking about the path forward, what must be necessary so that they can fulfill their core mission. But obviously, when you have an organization as World Business Chicago is, that's dependent upon revenues coming from the city and the state, and we're faced with these challenges, we can't pretend that it's business as usual. Andrea Zopp made some tough but I think necessary choices around staffing, but also focused on making sure that the core activities of World Business Chicago continue on.
Okay, Joe Biden's speech last night, there were many looking to see, was he capable? Does he have the capacity? Was he presidential? I know you're going to say yes, but was there anything about that speech last night that gave you the thought, okay, this is where we're headed, and the team is the right team for the times?
Well, I felt that they are the right team from the time that Kamala Harris was announced, and we knew what the team was. I think what we saw, not just focused on last night, and I'll talk about that in a moment, but over the course of this week, all of us were wondering, what will a virtual convention look like? Will we be able to see the energy generated from that, that inspires people? And I think one of the things that the people that produced the convention did well, the DNC and obviously the Biden team, is bring in the voices of ordinary Americans from all across the country who have very different perspectives, but all, I think, united in a desire to have a country that reflects their lived experience. And I think the thing that Joe Biden drove home last night is that he is one of those people, right? Grew up in Scranton, had a father that struggled financially, had to make a lot of sacrifices, himself also with the stutter. And I got to tell you, that young man that spoke last night from New Hampshire, lights out, did a tremendous job. I don't think there was a dry eye in the House listening to him. We forget oftentimes the struggles of our children and when they are different in any way. And I think that what Joe Biden brought home last night is that he understands the trials and travails of ordinary people because he's lived them in his own life. There was a moment in the speech, and you probably noticed this, when he was talking about his son Bo, where he had to pause for a moment because the memory of his death is clearly still raw for this father who loved his children desperately and did everything he could to support them. That's the kind of person and the kind of man that we need in the White House, who is not so divorced from the circumstances of everyday people that he doesn't feel what they feel. So I thought the speech was a home run, but it was the crescendo on, I thought, an extraordinary week in a convention that we didn't know what it was going to be, but it was something pretty special. And I would hope that conventions in future years will build in the opportunity for ordinary citizens, residents, people feeling anxiety and inspiration to have their voices heard front and center. I thought they did a fantastic job.
And then one last one that I've just received. Mark Kunkel is asking, is there a chance of reconciling with some of those who you have an obvious rift with? He's suggesting a peace circle.
Mark Kunkel suggesting a peace circle. Let me just pause on that for a moment. Look, I am always open to trying to get things done for people. And despite the things that you see, there is dialogue. There's ongoing dialogue, and particularly with members of my staff. There are things that aldermen need to solve problems in their wards. And we are here to make sure that the people are always served, regardless of whether or not I personally agree or they personally agree with me. The residents deserve our best efforts always. Always. And let me just say one other thing that I thought would come up but hasn't. This discussion about the National Guard. I've been thinking a lot about that, of course, but I want to give my perspective on this issue. I grew up in Ohio, as many of you know. I grew up just down the road from Kent State. And I was 7+ years old when the news happened on that May 4th day in 1970 that National Guardsmen killed students on that campus. That was a huge moment in my young life. And of course, it was all over the papers, it was all over the news. The then governor was, I think, unrepentant in sending in the National Guard in an environment that really didn't require that kind of force. So I grew up with that memory deeply embedded in me. And while I absolutely understand the concerns of those across our city who are worried about their safety, what I know from that experience and what I know now is that National Guard has a very different set of training, very different perspective on force. They're military. they are told if there is a conflict, put down the conflict and use all means possible to do so. With due respect to my fellow mayors across the country, I watched with great interest when National Guard went into some cities in the north and also in the south. And I will say, with disastrous consequences. I don't want a circumstance where we bring in a tool that isn't the right tool for the moment. I have a lot of conversations with the governor on a range of different issues, this being one of them. Of course, I know that that resource is available, and as you know, at the end of May, beginning of June, I asked for and we received the National Guard here in our city. Since that time, we've made, I think, substantial strides in making sure that we have the deployments of our police in areas where we are challenged most by violence. And in addition to that, we have had the ongoing support of our sheriff's police, and I have to thank Sheriff Tom Dart for that, and we've had the ongoing support of the Illinois State Police, and I have to thank Director Kelly for that as well. We are in great coordination and cooperation with them. They are here on the ground with us as a backstop to the resources that we otherwise have in our police department. I'm not going to hesitate to do everything that I can to keep our residents safe. That is my solemn primary obligation. But the National Guard, despite my own view, is the National Guard, despite the conversation, is not a panacea. And what I've seen over the course of the summer is that if it's not deployed in the right way, it can go disastrously wrong. We're going to have this debate, and it's an important one for us to have. But I think we have to also have it in the context of what is it that we need to keep our residents safe? There's a lot of different things that are answers to that question. And I think that we have to have a fulsome discussion on this issue. And I'm confident that we will, again, in addition to the ongoing dialogue that we've been having publicly and privately on this very issue of public safety. So thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you.